So I just want to make a quick video about how YouTube is about a lot of incremental progress. Incremental progress. And so we got this nice camera. That's an expensive camera. Cost, I forget if it was $1,000 or $2,000. And I bought that several years ago. And I started this channel, I believe, in December of last year, almost a year ago. I have not used it once. We'll talk about that a bit. Let's see. Yeah, and I just wanted to comment a bit on my setup as well. It's different now. This mess over here, but this is a traditional tatami floor, Japanese floor. So I've got the cardboard here. You can see how much damage it would be doing. That's important. But there's so many things for YouTube. There's editing videos, there's camera stuff. So we got the nice camera going on. Cool. I found this today. So I had a YouTube channel like 5 years ago. The first one that I started was like 6 or 7 years ago. But the main thing was just about learning stuff. Now, I've got this white square here, which you can get rid of. You saw that it just died. So I gotta push the thing. So what I want to point out is, for example, if you're gonna start a YouTube channel, you might think, hey, I'm gonna get this nice camera, right away and all this stuff. Well, it adds a lot of complexity. Right now I'm recording with this iPhone, as you can see. And for example, for one thing, there's a few complicated things if you're going to use this fancy camera to record. How do you connect the camera to the computer? Now, maybe you just record separately, and then every time you make a video, you got to load in that information, yada yada. That is one way to do things, but I have it hooked up. This is a mini HDMI to HDMI cable, and we have cam links here. So one of them, that one is cam link, and then the other one is for if I'm gonna have the PS5 or Switch. It goes through here. So this is an HDMI splitter. Right there, and so one of the output cables goes to the TV, one of the output cables comes into one of these. So we've got Switch and PS5. We can what's the word, not cam link, capture card. We've got a capture card connecting it to the computer, and we've also got this with the camera. Okay, cool, but that's one thing. Now the other, right now this is using a battery, but there is let me grab it. This thing called a dummy battery, I believe it's called, and this thing fits inside the camera, where the battery goes normally, and then you can plug it into an outlet. So that's a dummy battery, which we've got. So if you want to use it for streaming, you have to get the dummy battery so that it lasts longer. You've got to have, at least for this camera, the a special cable, mini HDMI to HDMI, I think is what it's called. Let's get that going again. Then you have several problems that arise. So one problem is this square here. That's annoying. There's a way to get rid of that, but I have to look it up. Actually, it was hard to find how to get rid of that, but one person had a video on YouTube. I did this years ago, so I'll have to do it again. Figure that out, because I think the camera settings, at some point I reset them to the default, so I got to do all this stuff again. So that's one problem. Also, I think in the settings I can switch it so that it stops falling asleep, as we've seen it done several times already. However, even then, I think it's still after an hour or two, it might still fall asleep, actually, maybe. I remember having some trouble with that, if I remember correctly. Another thing is just focus. So I'm gonna, look, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very blurry, and then it just died, hold on. It's on, okay, it's not auto-focusing, but it's very blurry, and then, but that's a function of the lens. And this was the first time in my life I ever bought an expensive camera. I didn't realize the lens can be so expensive. So I think the camera was $2,000, I think. And I think the lens was like another $1,000. So it's freaking expensive. So you probably don't want to get that. If you're starting out, don't get that. But, and this is a great camera. I love it. Whatever it is, Canon EOS R, I think it's called. So then there's one other problem. Oh, just the focus. Actually can cause a lot of problems. I've seen, I watched a video once where, like, so if you have it on autofocus, which I don't, but so, hold on. It will focus when I push the button on whatever the square is in the square, I think. So you can see now it's focused on the background. So if I have it on autofocus, see how blurry I am? Very blurry, right? Autofocus will be doing this automatically. Right now it's not set for that. So, okay. So these more expensive cameras have a lot more issues with focus, whereas an iPhone camera or a webcam, they have better stuff, better tech, I don't know exactly, better software for kind of autofocus that is going to be more practical. Yeah, iPhone does a pretty good job with adapting in that regard. Now that's just the camera, and I haven't even used it for a single stream or video, because I know that it has these issues which are not a big deal, but it's a lot of setup. And actually I've just been trying to gradually improve. In the beginning, probably the first 9 months of the channel or so, I never showed my face, not because I was shy, but I just wanted to build up gradually. And yeah, you learn, by building up gradually, you learn the importance of different things. I'll give a little analogy or example of something similar. When I was 19 or so, 19, 20 or so, I was really into music. I thought maybe I should have a career in music. I don't know. But I bought a bunch of nice recording equipment. And there was a guy, a friend of a friend, who would play music with us sometimes. And he had studied this at a community college, how to do the recording setup. So he helped us. So, you know, it's complicated. I mean, the recording equipment is complicated. I mean, I'm not talking about tens of thousands of dollars here. I spent, I don't know, a couple $1,000 on recording equipment, including all the mics and everything. And, you know, probably a handful of mics, like, because we have drums, so you need several mics. The long story short here is that I went from nothing to like trying to get to, I don't know, medium level something. And the result is you don't really know what the heck you're doing. For example, miking drums, I was just doing what he said I should do, but I actually had no idea what I was doing. And the solution, I thought at the time, the lesson I took away was it would be better to build up gradually and experiment. For example, if I were recording drums, first just buy, in those days I could have bought like a really old school tape recorder setup, which at the time was already quite old. We're talking like 2006, 2007, that kind of era. Tape recorders were definitely very old. But so I could have found some old one for really cheap, or just some really cheap technology with one microphone, spend a couple $100, and then discover, oh, you know, this kind of sucks. but I can record stuff, practice, and look at the recordings and, well, listen to the recordings and figure things out from there. And then, so once I started, and then, study a bit. Okay, how do I record drums? Now I play drums, piano, and guitar, but then go, start with one microphone, do that for a while, at least a month or something, at least get like 5 or 6 recordings under your belt and experience it. And then figure out, okay, I'm going to go for 2 microphones, or let's say maybe 3, because you could have a microphone for the bass drum, a microphone for the snare, a microphone, and then like a just hanging over everything microphone. And like that would be a serious step up. Now you need a multi-track recorder as well. But see, like by doing things incrementally, I would be able to perceive, oh, okay, this is so much better from my previous 1 microphone recording setup. And here's why. I know the reasons why. And I would learn just how to adjust the drum, the bass drum levels. There's also, with microphones and recording audio and all that, there's some very complicated things. I mean, there's multiple different types of microphones. You might think to yourself, well, how much does the quality of the cable matter? Honestly, probably not much. The expensive cables use like gold plating, because gold actually has really nice properties, like not being easily corroded. They're going to last you longer. Like if you are kind of rough with your cables and they're cheap, after a few years, maybe they don't work well anymore. You get some kind of like noise or something. But I could have done, cheap cables to start, and you figure, it's fine. They work. After a few years, you might be like, oh, it's, I'm having some issues with this cable. So, you can think about it, but your cables are probably fine. But like, I'm using that as an example because it's actually kind of a distraction. Like you can spend a bunch of time researching, like, how much do the cables matter? You've got your microphone stands, and of course, different types of microphones and all this stuff. So what we did do, we probably had like 5 microphones for the drums. So I went from nothing to suddenly 5 microphones on the drums, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Even just, so it would have been better to do what I said. 1 microphone to start, then upgrade to 3, which is already starting to get complicated, and there's a lot of stuff to learn. Do that for a while. And I think actually, like, I'm not experienced very much with recording drums at all, but you could probably learn a lot and get some okay recordings with 3 mics on a drum set, and do that for several months and just learn a lot. Experiment with all kinds of positioning. And then you'd want to do that a lot before you start jumping up to 5 microphones. 5 microphones is very complicated, in my opinion. You also have issues of phasing between microphones. That's a very technical thing, but can cause problems. So it's a complicated thing. Then you talk about recording piano and getting the audio from the guitar, which you could feed it into a computer, or you can just put a microphone in front of the amp. There's all these kinds of things, right? It's complicated. So I learned, start from the beginning and build up. This was not my first microphone at all. I bought a cheap thing for $50-$60, but this is still a USB microphone. I bought expensive microphones for the piano, to record the piano, and I didn't even think about using it for my voice. I'll try one day, probably. There's just so much incremental stuff to do. I wanted to talk about this webcam, which I kind of hate. I think it was like $100 or $200, and it was probably more than $100, like $150 or something. It's a USB webcam. So here's the thing. Through USB, I'm talking about the old ones. What is this? That's like USB 2 or USB 3. there's only so much data that can go through here. So you're never going to get the quality that you'd get from that. Now, I was buying webcams back when, before USB Type-C. Now we've got USB Type-C. I'm sure you have a better generation of webcams now. But even though this webcam was probably twice the cost of that webcam, the difference in quality to me, it's like a 20%-ish improvement. However, this webcam has issues that piss me off. Like this one is pretty stable as far as positioning it. You got this standard thing. It's easy to position. This one is a pain in the neck. Like if I position it here, you see, like just something about this cable being sort of too sturdy in a way. The flimsier cable means that when you bump it, it's not such a big deal. This one, every little bump, I don't know. It's very, it feels sort of weird, flimsy in a weird way. Like, here, I'm going to position it. Oh, it moves. It's very annoying to position. Very annoying. But this has something even more annoying than that, which I've been experiencing, which is every time I restart my computer, it goes back to the default settings. That's so annoying because the default settings have an automatic, they do automatic white balance and automatic exposure. And sometimes that causes flickering. So it's very annoying. And also, like, I have, settings that I prefer in terms of color saturation, contrast, sharpness, and there's some noise reduction in here, which actually was nice. So I like to switch that on. So there's a bunch of settings, and every time I restart my computer, it goes back to the default. So I realized that today. It happened for the second time. So I'm like, okay, that's not an accident. So that motivated me. Just think about this expensive camera, using it, upgrading a bit. And, well, I had to find the dummy battery and that special cable. And that's why this suitcase is here. This is my suitcase from Tokyo. And, I'm in this old house in Japan. And, this is one of the rooms I cleaned up. So this is recycle stuff. This is where I have the most space to try to do that. It's a little bit messy, but you can see, like, if someone were visiting, this would take 20 minutes to clean up and be nice and clean. And I got this fancy schmancy setup. The idea is that I would have, if I'm vertical streaming, I've got that over here. And I was going to do some Roblox stuff, and we got the properties for the Roblox object. That's kind of nice. But kitchen is total mess. It'll take a few hours to clean up. And there's this room over there, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there's a lot of rooms to clean up in this house. And I find little things like, actually, I've been looking for the stuff I mentioned with that camera for a while. So I looked everywhere in that room, and I looked everywhere upstairs, and then it's like my third time looking in the last few months. Oh, it was in my suitcase from Tokyo. Okay. So, like I said, actually, this camera is the simplest to use, but you're going to get lower quality. I've done some streams where I use both of these cameras. Right now, if I want to get going, the fastest thing is to use this camera, and just every time I use it, I have to put the settings in again. That's annoying. That'll be the fastest right now, because I got to do it's at least 30 minutes of research to fix a few of the problems with this camera. If not even more than that, to realistically use it. And another thing that happens is that because the camera quality is higher, you become more self-conscious about how you look. So it's like, oh gosh, I need to get a haircut. I need to wash my face every day so it looks cleaner. Maybe I should use moisturizer. I hear supposedly retinol has actually scientific basis for improving skin. I don't think it helps long term necessarily, but short term it does. I remember that from translation work I did. I was like, I was doing copy for moisturizer products, and I actually got curious about what is scientifically backed and what is not. Apparently retinol has some scientific basis. I gotta clean that room. Anyway, oh, this old thing I've used before in the past. It's nice. This was my second green screen. The first one I bought is just like this cloth you put up, and it sucks, really. This is much better. But I was gonna set it up, but I don't know what happened to this pole thing. So I gotta find it. And that means cleaning up is sometimes the best way to find something. So I gotta find that pole somewhere in this house. And that was triggered because I set up the camera originally pointing this way, and this background, with the higher quality camera, this background sucked. It sucks anyway. This is cat damage. So yeah, lots of incremental improvements, but it's kind of fun. Just gradually improve. That's what I'm doing. That's my mission. Leave a comment. Have a nice day. Bye.